listen quietly and follow along. It's important that you know this. At any point, click the pause button to check your understanding or to take a break.
All right, let's talk about glazes. Glaze is essentially colored clay that has some special properties in it that when it gets fired, it creates a really nice finish on your clay pieces, and it comes in a variety of colors. Right here, I'm holding up true black. This is light blue, and on the table, I have a color called hot red. When we apply glaze to our clay projects, after they are bisque fired, I do it with a paintbrush. There's lots of different ways to apply glaze, but paintbrush is probably the best way to go for your project. Here's my paintbrush, and here is my container of glaze. I have them on a tray, and you'll see why in just a moment. When I go to glaze my project with a paintbrush, it's very similar to painting. Remember, this isn't paint. You're going to dip your paint in the container and then apply it to your project. When you apply it to your project, you're going to want to do at least probably 3 layers. The more layers you add to your clay project of glaze, the brighter and stronger your colors will be. When you are done, let's say I'm done with hot red, should you leave your paintbrush in the container? No. When you are done, all you have to do is set it down on the tray. Clay is a bit more chunkier than paint, and it's not really good for the paintbrush if we leave it in the glaze. So that's why we have the tray, and it makes things really easy for you.
Woohoo! Hey artists, let's glaze. This is super exciting because when we're working in ceramics, glaze is like the finishing touch to our work. It creates a nice outer layer that actually is very similar to like melted glass we're applying. And it gets fired in the kiln. Here are some glaze bottles, and they actually turn out something like this. It's shiny, it kind of seals it, but it does feel kind of like a watery glass, which is amazing. So you get to pick from different colors, and yeah, let's do it. We're going to be applying glaze through a paintbrush. Here, this is not actually the piece I'm going to be glazing. These are what we call test tiles, and they show kind of an example what that particular glaze right here is going to do. So if you're interested in like picking multiple colors, it's important. These will help show you what the color is going to look like after it's fired. The fun part about ceramics is you never quite know what each glaze is going to look like until you do a test. But even then, we all apply glaze differently. Even though we're all using a paintbrush, well, the person who applied this one, which was me, I did 2 layers of glaze on it. And this one I did 3. But here's the thing. When I pick up glaze, I might be doing it a lot heavier than you, or you might be applying glaze much heavier than me, so it will affect your outcome. Does that make sense? We all apply glaze differently. This is the general, but you know, we all do different amounts. You're gonna want to do 3 layers of glaze. The more layers you have, the more solid and not transparent the color will be, so the more solid. For this example of how to glaze, I'll be using a coil pot. Here we go. Now, like I just mentioned earlier, each glaze gets its own paintbrush. I'm working with 2 different colors so you can see how we kind of operate using 2 different colors of glaze. The rule is when you apply any type of outer application of pottery, whether that's acrylic paint or glaze, always start with the inside. It's going to make it so much easier for you. Let's apply 3 layers of glaze to the inside of our pottery. It works similar to paint. Here we go. And I just spread it around the bottom. You can be a little bit more generous than you would with paint, making sure all your areas are covered. It's going to be a little bit difficult in the cracks. I'm slowly working my way up the pottery, and you can tilt it so you can see it all different ways. There we go. I'm letting the brush just do the work, and I can always dab it going up and down to get in those tight areas. When I dab, the hair on the brush pushes the glaze into those tight areas that I wouldn't normally be able to get, like here, if I had just brushed over it. So now I'll be able to get in those tight spaces. When you glaze, you want to cover all the spaces you can. So pretty much everything except the bottom. Do not glaze the bottom where it will touch another surface at the bottom, whatever the clay sits on. If you do that, the glaze will melt and stick to the kiln shelf. That will make you a very sad artist because I will have to kind of break your pottery to get it off the kiln shelf. It will stick there. So it's important that you do not apply glaze to the bottom. A little bit is okay because I can, wash it off and accidents happen, but do not apply glaze to the bottom. Okay, I'm coming up around the rim of my pot here. Looking pretty good. There you go. Now, what do you notice, artists? What's going on with the material? Where it's lighter, like right on the edge here versus right there. Where the lighter, that means the glaze has dried and it's ready for another layer. Here we go. But I'm gonna just continue kind of working my first layer, getting most of that done first. So now I'm going back to the outside. Okay, I just applied my first layer of glaze to where I would like the color purple. I went back and I double checked to make sure that there was no areas I missed, especially in any of my, spaces. Looking good. I'm ready for layer 2. So I would repeat the process over, starting in the inside, and you'll be able to tell where you went because, as you know, it's darker in tone where you just applied glaze, and it's lighter where it has already previously dried. Okay.
If you like to use a different color, we don't use the same paintbrush from Hot Red in True Black or Robin's Egg Blue or Yellow. That will mix the colors, and each color has a different property of materials and stuff in it, so you do not want to mix. So that's why it's very important that the paintbrush with this color stays on that tray, and then you can move on to a different color that has a different paintbrush and a tray set up just for that particular color. Make sense? All right, let's glaze.
Okay, now here is what I'm going to do if I would like to change color. This paintbrush needs to stay with the purple. We don't wash it in between. We just keep it with the purple because we cannot mix glazes. I'm going to use this paintbrush only for the blue over here. Doing my first layer. Okay, I am finished using the light blue glaze. Before I put it down, I'm going to try to just brush off any extra glaze on the rim. We want to try to keep and save as much glaze as we can because glazes can be really expensive. There we go.